Hello, good morning everybody. Welcome to our new video. Today's video will be about O level. We are going to read chapter 4, Black Beauty. So please open your books with me. Let's read together. Let's read with understanding. Chapter 4 is entitled New Owners. New Owners. Let's begin. Earl Smythe's house at Earlshall Park. You know that Earl Smythe is the new owner of Black Beauty. Earl Smythe's house at Earlshall Park was much bigger than Birtwick Park. Who owned Birtwick Park, do you remember? Yes, it's Squire Gordon. So the new house was bigger than the old one and more modern. The Earl's daughter, Lady Anne, remember the name? The Earl's daughter, Lady Anne, liked to ride me around the park with her brother or cousins. I enjoyed these rides, which were sometimes with Ginger and sometimes with another young horse called Lizzie. I was a popular horse with Earl Smythe's wife, as well as his daughter. So both Earl Smythe's wife and Earl Smythe's daughter liked Black Beauty very much. But there was a problem. Let's read. But Lady Smythe always used me to pull carriages. She liked the latest fashions. Remember this reason? She liked the latest fashions. And one of these fashions was for horses to use special reins. A rein for a horse is something like a strap or rope that helps the horse driver to direct the horse. So one of these fashions was for horses to use special reins. These kept the horses' heads high in the air all the time while they were pulling the carriages. Do you think this is comfortable for horses or not? Yes, of course, it's not something good for horses. It's something that is painful or aching for horses. So horses don't like that. How wonderful they look, the lady said when she saw Ginger and me with our heads held high. She liked the scene, she liked their shape or their style while their heads are up all the time, because as I told you, that was the fashion. But the reins were very uncomfortable, and it was almost impossible to pull the carriage up a hill when you couldn't put your heads down. It's impossible for a horse to pull the carriage up a hill while going up a hill when they couldn't put your head down. Once Ginger said, if they don't tighten, make it strong. If they don't tighten the reins more, I will do what they ask me, said Ginger. I can see that this is a good home and that they are good people, but if they tighten them anymore, there will be trouble. You know the character of Ginger. You know, when she doesn't like anything, she does what? Yes, sometimes she kicks or bites. That was her habit in the past. But if they tighten them anymore, there will be trouble. Look at this photo. These are called the reins, and they help the horse's head to be up all the time. But if they tighten it too much, this is painful for horses and makes it difficult for them to walk. I didn't like these reins at all. But Ginger and I continued to work hard. However, every day they tightened the reins a little more. One day, we were both in a carriage together. The lady decided that she wanted the reins to hold our heads up even higher. I could see that Ginger was not happy, and we are expecting Ginger to do something. Before the man could tighten the reins, Ginger began to kick so hard. Ginger began to kick so hard that she fell to the ground. Imagine this while happening. She began to kick so hard, so strong, and she fell. I fell too, because they are together. Ginger and Black Beauty were together in the same carriage. So when Ginger fell to the ground, Black Beauty also fell. I fell too, and we both had to be cut from the carriage as soon as possible. We were both hurt after the fall. Remember, because this is an answer to a question which says, what was the result of Ginger kicking so hard? We were both hurt after the fall, and we were taken home. Earl Smythe's helper, York, was angry about the special rains. He didn't like them. But because he was only a servant, he could do nothing. There was nothing he could do to stop Lady Smythe's love of fashion. He didn't like, he was angry with the rains, but he could do nothing. He washed our wounds with hot water, and it took a long time before we recovered. They needed a long time to recover, to be better, to return to their normal state once more. Ginger and I were put in a field to recover. They don't work at that time. But my knees, Black Beauty is speaking, but my knees were badly damaged. We were not well enough to run as we used to do, so they couldn't run well enough after that accident. So we spent a lot of time chatting. Then one day, the Earl came to see us with York. He said, the Earl Smythe, I spent good money on these horses, because he bought them. I spent good money on these horses, but if they cannot pull a carriage, we must sell them. If you have a horse and this horse cannot work, of course you will think of selling it. And that's what Earl Smythe decided to do. I know a man in Bath. Bath is a name of a town. I know a man in Bath who needs a good horse, said York. He looks after his horses well. You should write to him, York, said the Earl. We can still get good money for Black Beauty. I am not sure about Ginger, because Black Beauty is a good horse, you know that? So they can get a good amount of money from selling it, but he is not sure about Ginger. Why? Can you imagine? Yes, because as you know, Ginger kicks and bites, and no one, of course, would like to buy a horse like that. A week later, I was taken away from the field and said a quick goodbye to Ginger. This is the first time for them to be separated from each other. Ginger will be owned by another person, and Black Beauty will be owned by a new owner. I was taken on a train to the town of Bath. This means that Bath is not a near town. It was my first journey on a train, but the experience was not a bad one. He enjoyed his experience on a train. My new owner lived in a small house in the town, and he had many horses. People could hire the horses for a day, so that was his job. He had a lot of horses, and he gives these horses to people for a day, maybe for 2 days. People who don't have a horse and need one will go to this person and ask him for a horse for 1 day, and they will pay money for this. This meant that many of them were not good drivers, because people who come to take horses for a day are not horse owners. They don't have horses, so they were not good drivers. I was a gentle horse. You know that about Black Beauty. Black Beauty was a gentle and kind horse. So my new owner often let bad drivers take me because he knew I would behave well. Some of these riders pulled the reins so hard that it hurt my mouth. So these are some of the problems that Black Beauty faced at this stage of his life. Some of these riders pulled the reins so hard, so strong that it hurt my mouth. Some other people didn't use the reins at all. Imagine that, while you are driving a horse and you are not using the reins, so that I didn't know what to do. While the horse is walking, he didn't know if he can go right or left. He doesn't know the direction, because the man who drives it is not using the reins. Others didn't understand that a horse cannot work when it has a stone in its foot. Sometimes there is a stone in the horse's foot, and this, of course, makes it very painful for a horse to walk. So they must take it out before they ask the horse to walk. So these are some of the problems that Black Beauty faced at that time. One driver complained that he had hired a bad horse because I couldn't walk very fast. Why didn't Black Beauty walk very fast? The stone in my foot was very painful. The stone in my foot was very painful, and it was very difficult for me to get home again. However, there were also good drivers in Bath. One of these liked me. One of the drivers who used Black Beauty for a day liked him. He liked me so much that he asked my owner if his friend could buy me, and soon I had another new owner. His name was Mr. Barry. This person you can see in the picture. Mr. Barry. His name was Mr. Barry. He was a businessman who had little exercise, and his doctor advised him to ride a horse to keep him healthy. So his doctor advised him to have a horse to be like a sport that he must do. He had a helper called Felcher. Look at him in this picture. This is Mr. Barry, and this is his helper Felcher, to look after me and bought me the best food he could find. So I think it will be a good life for Black Beauty with Mr. Barry. Felcher was good to me, and for a time I was happy. I didn't know that my life was not going to be happy for long. So Black Beauty stayed with Mr. Barry and Felcher for some time feeling happy, but that didn't continue for a long time. Why? Let's read and see. Felcher began to give me less food each week. So that was the problem. Felcher began to give me less food each week, and I became hungry. I had less energy and started to feel exhausted. Exhausted means? Who can give me another word for exhausted? Yes, that's right. Exhausted means very, very tired. I had less energy because he didn't have enough food, and started to feel exhausted all the time. When Mr. Barry visited a farmer friend in the country, the friend said, "Your horse doesn't look the same. Has it been ill?" So Mr. Barry's friend, he was a farmer and he knows a lot about horses. He noticed that Black Beauty didn't look very well. He asked him, "Has it been ill?" And Mr. Barry, who doesn't know a lot about horses, said no. But Felcher, who is Felcher? Yes, his helper, told me that horses often have less energy in the autumn, and that it's nothing to worry about. So it means that was a problem that also Mr. Barry noticed, and he asked his helper, "What's wrong with my horse?" And this was Felcher's answer. He said that all horses often have less energy in the autumn, and that it's nothing to worry about. But of course, that was not true information. "That's not true," cried the farmer. "If you buy this information is not true. If you buy good food for this horse, then it isn't eating it." So the farmer expected that Black Beauty didn't have enough food. Sometimes something else is. I suggest that you give this horse some good food for the next few weeks, and I advise you to watch your helper. There are some men who will steal food even from an animal. Of course, I knew what happened to my food. Felcher put most of it into a basket and took it home. So that was the problem. Felcher took most of the food that was for Black Beauty and took it home. His family kept rabbits, which they sold at the market, and my food was given to them. Mr. Barry called the police after this because he knew that Felcher was a thief who stole the food of the horse. So Mr. Barry called the police after this, and they later arrested Felcher. This experience made Mr. Barry feel bad, and he decided to sell me because a horse caused him some problems, so he decided to sell it. I was taken to a market for horses. There were horses there of all shapes and sizes. Horses of all shapes and sizes. Some were tall and strong, others were old and sick. It worried me to see some of these horses who looked very thin. And Black Beauty asked himself, would I be like that one day? I stood with 3 other strong-looking horses, and many people came to look at us. The men who thought about buying me opened my mouth, looked into my eyes, and felt my skin. They were examining the horse before buying it. Many of them saw that my knees were damaged. Why? Can you ask yourself? Why do his knees were damaged? Why were his knees damaged? Why were Black Beauty's knees damaged? Of course, because of the accident he had with Ginger. And some were rough with me. Rough here means not kind. There was one man, however, who felt my legs gently and spoke softly in a kind way. I liked him and hoped he would buy me. This man said, I think we will be good for each other. I think I will be a good owner for you, and I think you will be a good horse for me. He paid 24 pounds and I had another new owner. So remember, 24 pounds. And that was the end to today's chapter. I hope all of you to look at your workbook, the section concerning the questions of chapter 4, answer the chapter, and if you have any questions, you can send them to me. If you have any difficulties, you can send them to me and we will discuss them together. Thank you. Goodbye.
Audio Jungle.